Hello everyone, this is Story Hunter. Today I will tell you about the outstanding hobbit from Shire, the keeper of the One Ring, Frodo Baggins. I'll tell you about his life path, and what trials he had to face. Much of Frodo's youth was spent at Brandy Hall in Buckland, the ancestral home of the Brandybuck family, including his mother, Primula Brandybuck. Frodo was known as something of a scoundrel, befriending Meriadoc, Merry Brandybuck, and Peregrine, Pippin, took and causing trouble wherever they went. They often stole mushrooms from farmer Maggot Bamfurlong's farm. In subsequent years they became very close. Frodo, treated as his own son by his foster guardian, learned much of the Elvish language during his time with Bilbo, as well as much of the lore of Middle-earth. They also had a tradition of taking long walks together every week from Hobbiton to Michel Delving and Buckland, throughout the Shire. They shared the same birthday, September 22nd in the Shire, about September 12th, 14 in our calendar, and a party of special splendor was thrown when Frodo reached 33 years of age and Bilbo reached the remarkable age of 111 years. Bilbo gave a memorable birthday speech before playing a prank on his fellow hobbits by using the One Ring to disappear, to which Gandalf quickly responded and used his staff to create a blinding flash where Bilbo had just stood. The hobbits at the party were left confused and unhappy, and Bilbo was never seen in the Shire again. Before setting off on the journey to Rivendell, Gandalf persuaded Bilbo to voluntarily give up the One Ring. Bilbo left it on the mantelpiece with a note for Frodo, who would now become the next bearer of the ring. After the party ended, Frodo returned home to find that he was now master of Bag End and had received Bilbo's magic ring. Gandalf, who became increasingly interested in the differences, power, and purpose of the ring, but was not yet sure that it was the One Ring, advised the young lover not to use the ring. Over the next 17 years, Frodo fulfilled the wizard's request and hid the ring in a safe place. However, on April 12, 3018, Gandalf returned to Bag End and warned Frodo that the ring was in fact the One Ring, which the Dark Lord Sauron needed to rule Middle-earth. Realizing that Sauron would seek the ring, Gandalf advised the hobbit to secretly follow Bilbo's journey to Rivendell. After Frodo's conversation with Gandalf, a rumor began to circulate that he was running out of money. This rumor, although not in the chat with Frodo, was under his control. Merry helped Frodo buy a small house in Crick Hollow. With the exception of his gardener Sam Gamgee, who agreed to accompany him to Rivendell, Frodo informed the activists of the Shire that he intended to move to Buckland. He sold his house to the Sackville Baggins family, and on September 23, 3018, the day after his 50th birthday, Frodo left Bag End, taking Sam and Peppina with him. Early in the morning they found themselves in Bree, just in time when Sauron's most powerful servants, the 9 Nazgul, joined the Shire, dressed as Black Riders, in search of a hobby called Baggins. Frodo was nearly captured by the Black Rider on the road, but was rescued by Gildor Inglorian, from whom he asked for advice. Leaving the roads that crisscrossed the area, Frodo and Sam reached the farm of Farmer Maggot, who helped them evade the riders. Meeting Merry at Buckleberry Ferry, they saw a horseman pursuing them from the shore from which they had departed. Upon arriving at Crick Hollow, Frodo discovered that Merry and Pippin already knew about his secret journey. Frodo had no choice but to take the 2 young men with him. They broke through the old forest and the barrows in the hope of losing the Black Riders, and they succeeded. However, in these places, they encountered other troubles at the hands of Old Man Willow and the Barrow Wights, but were saved twice by Tom Bombadil, a mysterious creature that lived in a clearing in the middle of the old forest. In Bree, the hobbits stayed at the old Prancing Pony Inn. Frodo went by the name Mr. Underhill, trying to arouse as little suspicion as possible. When he noticed a mysterious cloaked man sitting in the shadows smoking a long-stemmed pipe, Frodo asked the innkeeper, Barlaman Butterbur, who the man was. The innkeeper called this man, the Ranger, Strider. That night, the Black Riders arrived in Bree and attacked the inn in search of Frodo and the One Ring. But Strider managed to hide the hobbits from them in time. Having gained their trust, Strider introduced himself to Frodo and the others as Aragorn, to whom he also revealed the backstory of the Black Riders, also called the Nazgul or Ring Wraiths. With the help of a pony named Bill, which the hobbits acquired in Bree, Strider led Frodo and his companions into the wild. Aragorn will be their guide to Rivendell, and he will lead them through the Midgewater Moors to Weathertop Hill. On the night of October 6th, the hobbits were attacked by 5 of the 9 ring-wraiths at Weathertop. In the presence of the Nazgul, Frodo made the mistake of wearing the ring. He was able to resist their attempt to capture him by drawing his sword and invoking the name of one of the Valar, Elbereth Gilthoniel. Unfortunately, the leader of the Nazgul, the Witch King of Angmar, stabbed Frodo in the shoulder, it would have pierced his heart, with a Morgul knife. If it hit him in the heart, Frodo would become like the Nazgul, only weaker and under their control. The ring-wraiths were driven back by the appearance of Aragorn and his fighting skills, also because he had torches, one of their few weaknesses. Although Aragorn was a skilled healer, he was unable to heal Frodo's wound. A fragment of the ring-wraith's blade remained in Frodo's body, continuing to move towards his heart. Near death, or worse, Frodo was rescued by Glorfindel, an elven lord, who mounted the wounded hobbit on his horse Asphalloth. They were found and pursued by the Nazgul when Glorfindel rode and quickly carried Frodo to the ford of Brunnen, at the entrance to the valley of Rivendell. Once they had crossed the river Brunnen, the 9 ring-wraiths behind them demanded Frodo give up the ring, but Frodo refused. Subsequently, the ring-wraiths entered the river and were washed away by a flood caused by Elrond. Frodo was soon healed in Rivendell by Elrond, who knew that the wound would ultimately not leave him, as it was both spiritual and physical. On October 24, 3018, Frodo awoke in Rivendell and was reunited with Bilbo, Gandalf, Aragorn, Sam, Merry, and Pippin. Although Elrond healed his wound, it continued to plague him every year while he lived in Middle-earth. After being healed, Frodo was summoned to the Great Council organized by Elrond. Representatives of all the free peoples of Middle-earth discussed the history of the Rings of Power and decided that the One Ring must be destroyed. When the ring was shown and anger flared, an argument broke out over who should bear the ring on this mission, until Frodo bravely volunteered to carry the ring to Mordor and throw it into the fires of Mount Doom. A member of each of the free peoples offered to join Frodo on his quest, thus forming the Fellowship of the Ring. The Fellowship consisted of Frodo, Samwise, Merry, Pippin, Aragorn, Gandalf, Boromir of Gondor, Legolas of the Woodland Realm, and Gimli of the Lonely Mountain. Before leaving Rivendell, Bilbo gave Frodo his dwarf-made mithril mail and the elven blade, Sting. The mithril cloak was given to Bilbo by Thorin Oakenshield during the events of The Hobbit, and Sting was taken from the Troll's lair by Bilbo. On December 25th, the Fellowship of the Ring left Rivendell and headed south. Following the White Wolves' attack on a region on January 11, 3019, the Brotherhood attempted to cross the Misty Mountains, specifically Caradhras Pass, but were unable to do so due to a snowstorm. Instead, they traveled through the underground city of Moria at Gimli's urging. Several days into their dangerous journey through Moria, the Fellowship entered the Hall of Mazarbul and were attacked by orcs and a cave troll. Frodo helped defeat the troll before he was stabbed by an orc captain, and the mithril shirt saved him from a fatal blow. The Fellowship then fled from there to the bridge of Khazad-dûm, where Gandalf fought Durin's Bane and fell. Finding himself outside of Moria while the Fellowship mourned, Gimli took Frodo and Sam to look at the mirror even in their great haste. The Brotherhood continued their journey south to Parth Galen. There, Boromir, a man of Gondor and member of the Fellowship, tried to convince Frodo to bring the ring to Minas Tirith and regroup from there. When the Hobbit asked to be left alone to consider his options, Boromir followed him. Seeing that Frodo did not intend to follow the proposed course of action, Boromir tried to take the ring from him by force. Frodo put on the ring and fled to the Seat of Seeing, where he watched as war brewed in Middle-earth and the Eye of Sauron sought him out during his journey. He was almost noticed, but the Dark Lord's attention was diverted by the resurrected Gandalf. Having removed the ring, he decided to take the item to Mordor alone, without telling the rest of the Brotherhood. However, he was joined by his friend Samwise Gamgee, who felt it necessary to protect and guide Frodo. Frodo gave in to Sam's protests and, although he did not want to lead anyone to his destiny, was glad of Sam's company. The two hobbits continued on to Mordor, dividing the Fellowship. Meanwhile, Boromir was killed by Uruk archers while protecting Merry and Pippin. The two young hobbits were then captured by the Uruk Hai and had to be taken to Isengard. Instead of following Samwise and Frodo to Mordor, the three hunters, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, decided it was more important to save Merry and Pippin from their captors. The disintegration of the Brotherhood was completed. The dead marshes lay south of the Emyn Muil and were just as disorienting, if not more so. It was believed that there was no way through the swamps, as the orcs marched for miles around, although Gollum secretly discovered the path during his journey. He led Frodo and Sam along a safe path through the moors, warning them not to follow what looked like small torches in the water. Frodo was imprisoned on the top floor of the tower. He was stripped of all his clothes and property. A fight broke out between two leading orcs and their battalions over ownership of a mithril vest. In this clash, almost all the orcs and uruks in the tower died. Sam soon arrived at the tower gates, only to find his path blocked by two watchers. In the end, he overcame them, entered the tower, found and saved his master. They descended and left the tower, passing the watchers again, this time destroying them, and entered Mordor. Frodo and Sam crawled further across the plains of Mordor, which were empty as many orcs had been sent to the Black Gate to meet the army of the Men of the West, and falling into and out of one such company of orcs, began to climb Mount Doom. They traveled for several days with little food and water, and Frodo grew weaker as the ring's power over him drew ever closer to Orodruin. In the end, Frodo could go no further, and Sam had to carry him a fair distance. It was then that Gollum appeared again, and after a short struggle, Sam stabbed Gollum in the stomach, and Frodo ran up the mountain to its entrance. Inside the cracks of doom, Frodo finally had the chance to destroy the ring and lighten his burden. But the ring's power was greatest because of the environment in which it was created. Frodo finally succumbed to temptation and the power of the ring. Sam shouted at Frodo to destroy him, but Frodo, overwhelmed by his power, loudly demanded the ring for himself. Gollum attacked Sam, who fell and hit his head on a rock, temporarily knocking him unconscious. Coming to his senses, he saw Gollum fighting the invisible Frodo. Gollum bit off Frodo's finger that wore the ring and was briefly reunited with his treasure until, dancing with joy, he fell over the edge and fell into the lava, destroying himself and the One Ring. Two hobbits tried to escape when Mount Doom erupted. Just when they thought themselves doomed, Gwaihir, Lord of the Eagles, saw them, and, together with his fellow eagles Landroval and Menildor, rescued Sam and Frodo and carried them west, out of Mordor, to safety. After recovering in the field of Cormallen and witnessing Aragorn's coronation as King Elessar, Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin returned to the Shire. When they arrived, they discovered that it was under the control of one Sharky, later revealed to be Saruman, and his troops. Saruman ruled the Shire from Bag End, although he was later killed by Grima Wormtongue. However, Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin began to gather all the sheriffs and townspeople of the Shire and successfully defeated Saruman's thugs at the Battle of the Riverside. Frodo did not take a direct part in the Battle of the Riverside. Instead, he ensured that no hobbit was harmed, stating that no hobbit had ever intentionally harmed another in the Shire and that this would remain true, and that no bully who surrendered was harmed.